from Tomcat Gas Training, and welcome to this video on this product. Well, not just this product, actually testing central heating water, because it is now mandatory that engineers, before they install a boiler and every year after they've installed the boiler, that they test the water quality to see if it's going to affect the performance, the efficiency and the life of the boiler. I'd just like to thank Liam Kelly from Sentinel for sending me these products free of charge so I can carry out this. Now, Sentinel aren't sponsoring this video, but they did kindly send me this for free. So, as usual, let's stop messing about and waffling and let's get on with this video. Now, what a lot of people don't realise, engineers and customers, that if a boiler breaks down under a warranty, the manufacturer can actually take a sample of the water, send it away to be analysed, and actually make a decision on whether it's the water quality within the boiler that has affected the boiler's performance. So they would check whether the water is too alkaline, or whether the water is too acidic, or whether the water is too hard. So whether you're an installer or a customer, you must make sure that the boiler is maintained and checked every 12 months. Now, back in April 2018, the government changed legislation on the controls for boilers. They introduced Boiler Plus, where all boilers now have to be greater than 92% efficient. With the use of controls, it must go above 96%. So the HHIC, or the Heating and Hot Waters Industry Council, started to put into place changes to the benchmark scheme. Now, the benchmark scheme is basically the commissioning procedure that engineers must carry out after installing a boiler. Now, every boiler's manufacturer's instructions at the back has the benchmark sheet which the engineer must fill in. Now, what they're saying is, to protect the boiler, that every boiler now, when installed, should have a magnetic filter in there to protect the boiler from magnetite and to help prolong the life of the boiler. So you shouldn't be fitting a boiler, or you shouldn't be having a boiler fitted if it hasn't got a magnetic filter. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to be taking a sample of the heating system here in the training centre, and we're going to be doing some tests on it, and we're going to be finding out what tests we need to carry out every year now on a service, which is now part of the benchmark procedure and the manufacturer's instructions, to check whether, if this boiler did break down, that the manufacturer would actually come out and fix it. So let's get on now with some of these tests and find out what we're actually going to be doing in this video. Now, first thing we need to do before we take a sample of the central heating water is it has to run for a minimum of 15 minutes first. So we need to turn this boiler on. So we're now going to wait for this boiler to fire up. We're now going to wait for the central heating water to actually go around the system for at least 15 minutes and get up to temperature before we take this water sample. Now, the first test we're going to be doing with the sample water, but I'm not going to take any sample water from here where the magnet is. I'm going to be taking the sample point from down the other end at the furthest point away from the boiler at a drain point. Is we're going to be doing a turbidity test. Turbidity, what's that? Well, basically what it is water which is cloudy, opaque, or it's full of some kind of suspended solids. So what we're going to be using is this turbidity tube. I think that's how you say it, turbidity, that's how it's spelled anyway. And we're going to be using this, which Sentinel sent me for free, but you pay about 17 quid for them. So let's find out exactly what this turbidity tube does and why this will be our first test when we're checking central heating water before we install a boiler and when it's on the first service. Now, first thing we need to do is we need to draw off a little bit of water first because we don't want to be taking the first bit from the valve because it could be dirty. So a few seconds to clear that out. Need to get rid of that. Need to wipe out the container because we don't want it contaminated. Now remember, you're going to be using, this is hot water coming out of here, so always be careful when you're handling hot water. So now we can take our sample. So now we've taken our sample, need to go and make sure the boiler's topped up, and then we can test this water. Now, these are 2 samples of central heating water I've taken. So this one was from the boiler we did last week, and this is from the training centre. Okay, so you can see, don't take a rocket scientist to see that is mucky, and that one has got like a yellow tint to it when you put it against a white background. So first of all, let's do this turbidity test and have a look and see what these turbidity tubes actually do. So let's see that now. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to fill, as you can see, these tubes to above line A. So that's the first thing we need to do. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to look down through the tube to the circles down at the bottom and see if we can actually see if the circles are visible. So the first one we're looking through is the one from the centre. So this is the turbidity tube with the water in from the centre. And you can quite clearly see the circles down at the bottom. So we can pretty much say that heating system is clean, because if your water is above A and you can still see the circles clearly, then that means it's clean. Now, if we look at this one, again you could see that they were both at the same level, and we can't see this at all. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drop the water so it's between lines A and B, and let's see if we can see through the water. So you can see now I've dropped the water level between the A and the B marks. So the A is there and the B is down there. So let's have a look now and see what we can see. And as you can see, we still can't see anything, any circles down at the bottom. It's just a murky bottom. So if we could see it between A and B, then we would class it as dirty, but we still can't see anything. So let's drop it below the B mark. So you can see I've dropped the water quite significantly down past the B mark, because this is how much water there is in the tube, so I can actually see the 2 circles. So let's have a look down the tube to see if you can just see them. And as you can see, we can literally just about see the 2 circles. So it says, if you can just about see it, it's very dirty if it's up to the B line, and we are virtually down to the bottom. So that heating system we looked at last week was incredibly dirty. Now, hopefully, this is going to prove how important these magnetic filters are. So this is just the magnet out of one of the standard magnetic filters. I'm going to put it into the solution from the boiler from the other week, well, the other day. I'm going to, hopefully it'll go all the way in. And then hopefully what you should see is the water start to clear where the magnetite is being attracted by the magnet. Because basically this dirty water in this system is the steel from the radiators and other metals called magnetite. So let's leave it for a few seconds and see what happens. Now you can see it's taken a lot of that magnetite out of the water. It's still left it an orangey colour, but that's literally after a few seconds. That's how much it's taken out. Would you have thought there was that much in that little glass of water? So that just proves how brilliant these are and how needed they are on central heating systems. Now you could see from the water sample we took from the centre, looks pretty clean. Now this is the magnetic filter what's protecting this part of the system. Now I don't think I've opened this since we fitted it, God knows, 2 years ago. So first thing I need to do is isolate it. So let's turn it off. So there's some little markers on the filter here what tells us whether we're on or off. Next thing I need to do is just open the vent to make sure the valves aren't passing. A little bit of water came out. Next we need to take the top off and see what we've got coming out of this system. Ooh, so there is some stuff on it. So as you can see, we do have some magnetite on the actual magnet, but it did give us really clear water. So this is actually doing its job. Not a massive amount of magnetite, but there is still some there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the magnet now in the clean solution to see actually if we do get any magnetite in there. So that's the filter, what's protecting the system. Let's give it a clean and stick it back. Now here's the magnet from the magnetic filter from the centre. I'm just going to place it in the water and I'm going to leave it and we'll see if we get anything on it. That's been in about half an hour, and as you can see, there is nothing on that magnet whatsoever. So there's no magnetite in that water at all. Now, testing this system water, this is incredibly important, and this needs to be done every year or before the boiler is installed. And it's important that the engineer understands the results as well. Doesn't just rack up and strip out the old boiler and put the new one in, because the magnetic filter isn't going to do everything. So every year the engineer, and also before we install this boiler, will need to check the water quality for, first of all, its pH level, whether it's an alkaline or an acid. They will need to check the TDS, which is the totally dissolved solids. We'll also check the EC, or the electrical conductivity, and also the total hardness. So these are the checks. We're now turning into chemists, not gas engineers. Okay, electricians with all our non-contact voltage indicator and self-isolation procedure, and now we've got to start testing the water quality and become a chemist. Now, the easiest way I've found of checking most of these is by using these, and these are just test strips which you would use for a swimming pool or a spa. They're incredibly cheap. If you just buy water quality ones just for testing tap water, they're like 3 times the price. I think I paid 11 quid for this, and there's 50 strips in this. So what we're going to do is we're going to test our heating water, which has now had some of the magnetite or the iron oxide removed from there. We've got our sample water from the centre, and I've also brought in a bottle of drinking water out of a bottle, not out of the tap, but you should be testing the tap water. So this is going to be our starting point, because it does actually give us a pH reading on here, and it says its pH is 7.2. So that'll test whether the strips are any good or not. So let's get on with these tests. Now, one of the tests we're going to be carrying out on this water is the pH. So what is pH? Well, pH is basically how much hydrogen and a hydroxyl is actually in the water. And it's a scale of 1 to 14, with 7 being neutral, 1 to 7 being an acid, and 7 to 14 being an alkaline. So that's basically what the pH scale is, and we need to be between 8 and 9 on the pH scale for central heating water to be correct. We're actually looking for mixed metals of about 8.3. Now what do this test strip only goes up to for the pH of 8.4, so yeah, we're looking between 8 and 8.3 really for our test. So this 8.3 is when the water is around about 25 degrees or so. So this water is just a little bit under that, but not far from it, so it should be a good test. So what we need to do is we need to get the strips open. Now actually in these packets they come in packs of 10s, I think. So we've got a sealed packet which we need to open, and inside here we've got our individual strips. So we need 3. 1, 2, 3. So going to open the water, and as you can see it's sealed. So this is all the tap waters are available. Anyway, so let's try and dip this in the heating water from the job we did. Now I need to put it in for 2 seconds but not spin it around, and make sure it goes completely under the water. So we're in the water, 1, 2, and we need to leave it for a minute to work. So we're going to do the same with this one. 1, 2, and finally the bottled water. 1, 2. So we'll leave them for a minute and we'll come back to them and see what we've got. So they've had a minute, and as you can see this is what we have to test them against. So you can see down the side, so that's our pH scale there, and that's our colours. So we want to be between, we need a reddish colour, but that's 7.2 for the drinking water, needs to be an orange colour. So let's try the drinking water first. So there's a pH scale, and pH is that orange colour. So it's a bit more than 7.2. It's about there according to that strip. It's definitely not 7.4. It's definitely not 7.2. It's more, I would say, around about there. So I don't know whether the strips are rubbish or not. All the water pH is more. So again, if we look at the pH scale on here, it's more of a reddy colour. So well, it's more that one. I don't know. It's rubbish when you're colourblind. It's definitely between those two figures. So that's the centre water. And if we take the one from the job, so you can see quite clearly, is it round about 7.2? Something like that. Anyway, that's what we've pretty much got from these test strips. Shall we look at the results then? I have them here. So the drinking water, chloride, nothing in it. pH, around about 8.4, even though the bottle says 7.2. And total hardness, 1000 ppm. Now, our heating water here at the centre, again, no chlorine in it, so that was 0. We have a pH level again of about 8.4, and then we've got less than 100 ppm for the total hardness. And then for the job water, again we had 0 chlorine. We had a pH of around about 7.2 with a total hardness of 0. It didn't show any hardness whatsoever. So that is the results of what we've come up with this heating water. Now, it's important to test the pH level and how hard the water is on the incoming mains for when we've got combi boilers. Because obviously if it's too high, the total hardness, we will end up getting the plate to plate blocked up with calcium. So that's not what we want. So remember, if the incoming water supply is over 200 parts per million total hardness, then you'll need to put a scale reducer in, and the electronic scale reducers are the best ones. So let's have a look at some more tests. Now, next test we're going to be doing on our system water. I don't think we'll be doing a test on this one, but we're going to do the test on this because this is the water from our heating system here at the centre. Is we're going to be checking to see how much of this stuff is in this water, if any. Now this is Sentinel X100, and thanks again to Sentinel for sending me this. Now this is 1 litre of inhibitor, and inhibitor will stop corrosion and lime scale, or inhibits corrosion and lime scale. And this 1 litre bottle will do about 100 litres of water, or between 8 and 10 radiators it's going to do. So that's a rule of thumb, 1 litre around about 10 radiators, to give you some idea. Now what we're going to be using is, we're going to be using this little test from Sentinel to see how much inhibitor we've got in there. And this would be a test you would do on your service. Now, I don't know whether this is X100 in here or not. It could be another brand of inhibitor. So we're also going to find out if this will pick up any inhibitor, because they should really have the same ingredients, shouldn't they really? I do know this might have one less or one more than other manufacturers of inhibitor, but hopefully this test is going to prove that we've got inhibitor in there. And what we use is this little colour chart on the back, which we're going to match up with our test. So inside here we have a little test tube, and we've got 2 lots of tablets. One what says it's a number 2 tablet, and the other one is supposed to be a number 1 tablet but doesn't say anything on the back. It just says see label for information. And we've also got a top in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill 1 centimetre of water in here, and then we're going to add the one of each tablet in there, and it should go yellow after 10 minutes. I think it says wait 10 minutes. Yeah, wait 10 minutes before. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to fill this up to, oh, a bit too much. So we got about there. So first of all, I'm going to add, hopefully you can see this, I'm going to add 1 of these tablets. Now it does say wear gloves. Got any plastic gloves? I'm allergic to latex as well, so be careful with these tablets. So it says add 1 from that one and 1 from this one. Put the lid back on, shake it up, and we've got to wait 10 minutes now for these to dissolve. Now, if the water was a bit hotter, because I've left it too long, if the water was a bit hotter, I'm sure they will dissolve a lot quicker. So let's come back in 10 minutes and see where we're at. After 10 minutes, that's the result. Now, I don't know whether this is not picking any other manufacturer's inhibitor up, or whether there's no inhibitor in the system, but according to Sentinel, it's showing there's actually no inhibitor in this system. So what I'm going to do is, there's 5 radiators on the system, on that part of the sensor. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to drain some of the water from this system out of the magnetic filter, and I'm going to be putting some of this in. So I'm going to put in this Sentinel X100 inhibitor into the magnetic filter. Then we're going to get the system up and running again and run it for at least 15 minutes so it gets it to circulate around. I might leave it a little bit longer. And then we're going to carry out the test again to see whether this test, because I've got 2 tablets left over, is going to pick up Sentinel's own X100 inhibitor. So, let's get on with that test then. Now, I've taken all the water out of the filter. And I've got this X100 inhibitor. Give it a shake. And to prove it's a new container, still got the seal on the top. And I'm going to fill this up now until about 3/4 of the way. Okay, that should be enough now to allow me to put the magnet back in without it all splashing over, but it probably will splash over. Let's get my bowl ready just in case. Judge to perfection, as they say. Tighten that back up, close off the vent, open up the valves, bleed out the top. This is now ready to put on for at least 15 minutes to get it to circulate around, and then we'll take this sample. So I've taken another sample. It does look a little bit different in colour than it did when I took the first sample. So I'm just going to fill this up to 1 centimetre from the top. Like that. And I'm going to put tablet number 1 in first. Give it a shake up. And I'm going to put tablet number 2 in. That's good. And give it a shake up. Ooh, it's already going yellow. You can see that. So it says leave it for 10 minutes till everything has dissolved, and but already you can see the difference there. That it's a lovely yellow, or going a yellow colour. So let's leave it for that 10 minutes. Now the 10 minutes are up. Woohoo! Look at that! Now that is a lovely yellow colour. Now on the back of the box there is a colour matching chart which we have to match to, and if I put them together I would say they're pretty much the same colour. So filling up our magnetic filter with X100 seemed to be enough for our system. But remember, there was only 5 radiators on our system, so maybe you might have to put the full bottle into a radiator or a towel rad or something like that to make sure your system's correct. So that's checking and using Sentinel's X100 quick test kit to see if you have got any X100 inhibitor in your system. Now, last thing, one of the other tests we can do on our central heating system is this test. So again, Sentinel have kindly sent me this system check. Now if we open it up, basically what's inside is, first of all, this is a prepaid envelope to send back to Sentinel. They then give us 2 test tubes, one for your cold water mains and one for your system water, and we're going to be sending this sample off to see what the results come back as. So also in the pack you get system water and mains water stickers to stick on the bottles so you don't get them wrong. We also get this sheet what we have to fill in, which is all the details for the job. So I'm going to be sending this off and we'll see what the results come back at, but that is going to be another video. So if you've liked this video, why don't you give me that thumbs up or leave a constructive comment down below. If you've not subscribed to my channel, then please subscribe because it helps me, and don't forget to hit that notification bell because I release videos mainly Mondays and Wednesdays. All I've got left to say is thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers guys.